By what name are you known?
There are some who call me Tim.
Welcome to another episode of Timmy Talks, the channel where we talk old school magic. And today we are back in Arnhem, the Netherlands for the Camel Trophy number 7. And we have reached the quarterfinals. Now before I start talking about the decks, first some information about the tournament, because this tournament is playing according to the gentleman's rules. Meaning we have no Library of Alexandria and no Mind Twist. Both of these cards are banned from the premises, so you're not going to find those in these deck photos today. And in this quarterfinal, we've quite an interesting matchup. We've got mono green, so mono green aggro piloted by Tim. He's taking on Martijn, and Martijn is playing blue-white robots, so a very strong deck. Two actually very strong decks going face-to-face here in the quarterfinals. Now, before I jump into the deck decks, I've got lovely deck photos of both of these decks. First, a message from our sponsor, 3for1 Trading. 3for1 Trading is one of Europe's leading Magic the Gathering retailers. Their online shop has a fantastic selection of high-end Magic cards, especially for vintage, legacy, and yes, old school Magic players. They now exclusively offer my community free, fully insured and fast worldwide shipping on all their high-end singles, full sets and out-of-print sealed products. They upload new cards every Wednesday and have weekly sale offers and reductions waiting just for you. Use my code TIMMY to get free worldwide shipping on your first order over $500 or euros. Have fun ordering those cards, and thank you 3for1 Trading for sponsoring this video. And we are back and ready to dive into the deck decks. I'm going to start with the player on the left, that is Tim. Let's take a look at his mono green deck. And here we see the deck of Tim, and this is actually the winner of last year's tournament. You can see that there is that prize card on the right top corner. So I guess the cards are on the right after the forests or his sideboards. You can see the camel in there. Proud Camel. He won it here last year. If you want to see that finals, by the way, it's still on the channel. There's probably a link popping up. You can click on there. Maybe check out that video after this video. So he's playing mono green, right? A super aggressive build. And Tim is one of those players that has been playing mono green forever. Whenever I see him at a tournament, he always plays this mono green deck. He played it before it was cool, before it started winning events. So he's a super skilled player. And I think what's interesting about his deck is that there are no berserks in here. He's really going for the strategy of just having a lot of creatures, right? He just wants to keep playing out creatures. It's really that swarm strategy. So he's playing with a lot of 1-drops, right? We see 12 1-drops in this deck. Llanowar Elves, Scavenger Folk, Script Sprites. Then he's playing with 8 2-drops. So he's playing with the Argovian Pixies, and he's playing with Whirling Dervish. Whirling Dervish, a card that many players use in the sideboard, but actually, if you can get it out turn 2, maybe even a turn 1 if you have a Mox Emerald, it can really deal some damage, especially when you have, of course, a Pendelhaven next to it, because then you attack early in the game. Your opponent probably doesn't have a creature that can block a 2/3 creature, so you're just going to take the damage, and then the pain starts, right? Because it starts building up those +1/+1 counters. So Whirling Dervish main, I think it's really interesting to see. And as you can see, I think the creature that is missing in this list that you'll see in many more mono green lists is Spitting Slug. Spitting Slug, a fantastic creature, 2/4 for 3, but it's not in this list. Instead, we see that Tim here has chosen to go with 4 Urnham Djinns and 4 Suchi. So going for a little bit of the bigger creatures here, also going to go for that Urnham Djinn. And I kind of understand the reasoning, because yes, City in a Bottle is a card, so it's a danger. On the other hand, the City in a Bottle only works here against the Urnham Djinns, not against all the other cards in the deck. And when you're playing against such an aggressive, mono green deck, probably the Urnham Djinn, if you have a City in a Bottle that only deals with 1 creature threat in this deck, it's just not going to be enough, because Tim is playing with so many creatures. You know what I mean? And then when we're looking at the sideboard, I love the Dryads in that sideboard. A 1/1 Forest Walker against the right opponent, that can be an absolute killer. So I love seeing those in the sideboard. Of course, Hurricanes in the sideboard as well. That's kind of a card but I'm not as experienced mono green player as Tim, but that's kind of a card that I would almost always play main, because it's direct damage. This deck of Tim wants to win through combat damage and combat damage alone, and that can be quite hard. And just to make sure that you always have that punch, I would definitely play one or maybe even both of those Hurricanes main. But again, I hardly ever play mono green. I do have a little mono green deck I love to play with, but I'm far from an expert when it comes to, the mono green deck type. And of course, you see a lot of mono green with that black splash, also referred to as DFB green. That's kind of the deck that's been, very popular at tournaments, because it's end budget friendly and it can win from the deck. You know, just a little bit of black splash makes it so much better. But I do have to say, personally, I love to see the pure form of mono green where it's just mono green like this deck of Tim. I really, really love it. And Tim, I guess you did a great job again last year. You won the tournament. Now you're in the top 8, so that's pretty exciting. But today you are against a very, very strong opponent because you're against Martijn's robot deck. Let's have a look at his deck. And here we see the robots deck of Martijn. So this is a blue-white robots deck. You've got different types of robot decks with different variations with color. But of course, most of them have that blue-white core, and we see Martijn really going heavily into that blue-white. And why is it called robots? Well, that's because of 2 creatures in the deck, Triskelion and Suchi. So Triskelion, the 4/4, well, actually the 1/1 for 6 mana, but it comes into play with 3 +1/+1 counters, so it's basically a 4/4. You can take those counters off to deal 1 damage to any target, and believe it or not, that is really, really good in old school. And he's only playing with 2, which surprises me a little bit. Usually these robot decks play with 4 Triskelions and 4 copy artifacts, but we see that Martijn chose a little bit more of a different strategy, maybe a bit more controlling strategy, you could say. He's playing with 2 copy artifacts and 2 Triskelions, so he's being a little bit modest in that department. He is playing with 4 Suchi. Suchi, the 4/4 creature from Antiquities. When it dies, you get 4 mana, and of course this is a problem when you're playing with mana burn, but in this format in Swedish there's no mana burn, so that makes this, the Suchi really, really good. It's a 4/4/4/4, which is really great stats. It is, however, very vulnerable because it's an artifact and a creature, so there are a lot of ways to deal with it, but of course it's also a great target for those 2 copy artifacts. And then right next to the Suchis we see 2 Sages of Latnam. Sages of Latnam is kind of your extra Gem Day tomes, right? A better Gem Day tome, you could say. The problem of Sage though is it's a creature, right? It's a 1/2 creature, 1 blue and 1, also from Antiquities. You can tap it, sacrifice a creature to draw a card. Well, I'm saying sacrifice a creature, you have to sacrifice an artifact, which is a very important difference. Because when you sacrifice an artifact, yes, you can sacrifice the creatures in this deck. You can also sacrifice an animated Mishra's Factory, but later in the game, if you're having too many Moxen and you don't really need them, you can cash in those Moxen for cards, and that can turn out to be quite decisive. I've seen Sage of Latnam decide a lot of games, and the thing is, the secret is out. People know how good Sage is, so usually it finds a bolt or a Swords to Plowshares as soon as it hits the board. But still, if it can stick on the board, it can be a super good card here for Martijn. Talking about card draw, we also say 2 Jam Day tomes. So 2 tomes and 2 Sage of Latnam. That kind of shows the intention of Martijn's deck. This is really a UW robots kind of control build. In my opinion, we also see 2 counterspells and a mana drain, so 3 counterspells in total. Then, of course, we see that, you know, white control package, the reason that white is so incredibly popular, right? We see 4 Swords to Plowshares, 3 Disenchants. We see a single Divine Offering. I think Divine Offering is one of those cards that, you know, continues to be more and more popular because it also gives you life. In this format, we also have a lot of 12 bolt decks, meaning Lightning Bolt, Chain Lightning, Psionic Blast, that combination. And if you have that little bit of life gain, even 1 Divine Offering can actually get you a long way. We also see another Divine Offering in the sideboard that, of course, you can board in if you play against, well, for example, another Robots deck, right? You're going to board in that extra Divine Offering. Talking about Artifact Hate, we also see a Dust to Dust main, and this kind of surprises me. It shows how many artifacts Martijn is expecting today and how many artifacts there actually are in old school Magic at the moment that you can play a Dust to Dust main. And of course, because he's mainly playing white and blue, the double white is not so much of a problem. When you're playing this white and blue robot shell in a lot of other decks, they're playing multiple colors besides white and blue, and then the double white can be an issue. But in this case, it's no issue, you know, and Martijn saying, I've got the mana to cast this Dust to Dust, I'm going to play it because I'm expecting to run into a lot of Moxen and other decisive artifacts. Of course, Jam Day Tome is another very popular artifact that you're going to see as well. And of course, the abundance of Suchis in the Swedish format, so it's going to help against those as well. And then one card I want to highlight before I continue, because then we just see, you know, all the restricted cards that are in there for a reason, because they're, you know, super good, that's why they're restricted. But it's also interesting to see the single Armageddon. Again, I think that's a good choice, also because he is himself playing with a lot of mana rocks, so you can Armageddon, keep those mana rocks. But also Armageddon, just in general, a great card. If you're ahead in the game, Armageddon, and you're probably going to win, right? So if you time your Armageddon right, that can be a game decider. Okay, and then now that we've talked about both decks, it means we're ready to go to the match. Let's go. Game number 1 here of the quarterfinals of the Camel Trophy is about to begin. On the left, we have Tim playing mono green. On the right, we have Martijn playing white-blue robots. And this promises to be an exciting matchup. I think the green player will be all over the place at the start. And then if Martijn, the robots player, can stabilize, who's probably going to win. So these first turns are going to be very important. Martijn, you're taking a mulligan. He's on the play, I believe. So starting with 6 cards in hand. So not the best start for him with that mulligan, playing a plains, passing the turn back to Tim. Tim playing a lot of Rare Elves here turn 1, playing with 12 1-drops in the deck. So it's no surprise to me that he has a 1-drop play here. And there we see a scrubland passing the turn for Martijn. Martijn not doing anything yet. And are we going to see an Ice Storm here by Tim? That's kind of what his deck wants to do, right? Turn 1, Llanowar Elves. Turn 2, Ice Storm to really win that tempo game. And then just start deploying lots and lots of threats. But the question is, does he have, of course, that Ice Storm in hand? Perhaps he's going to do something else. Going to tap a green, tap the Llanowar. There we see Whirling Dervish and a Mishra's Factory playing the Whirling Dervish main, a full playset of those. And of course the downside of the Dervish is that you do need 2 green. So couldn't attack here or deal any damage. Turn 3, very spectacular turn 3 for Martijn. Well, actually spectacular, but good turn 3 for Martijn. Ramping up with that Mox Jet, playing the Suchi. This is already a bit of a problem for Tim. Tim now really needs a Scavenger Folk. I mean, like I said, the early game is so important for Mono Green. And Mono Green hasn't dealt a single point of damage here. There's a Soul Ring, tapping some mana. There's the Argovian Pixies. Of course, a great card against Suchi, but still not really an ideal scenario here for Tim. Really needs to find a Scavenger Folk. Passes the turn back to Martijn. Martijn has there a Mishra's Factory. 5 mana available for him. Passes the turn. Yeah, I think if you're Martijn, you really want to just play defensively. You want to play passive. Guess we're going to see the attack with the Argovian Pixie, so dealing 2 damage. Can, of course, not be blocked by artifact creatures, so Martijn dropping to 18. Tapping 4. Okay, there we see one of the bigger creatures in the deck, the Urnum Djinn 4/5, which is quite good here. Because it can win it in a direct battle with the Suchi, which is just a 4/4. And we still see Martijn here kind of figuring things out. I believe I saw a Chaos Orb there. Could go Chaos Orb exactly. And then the question is, are you going to flip on the Pixies or are you going to flip on the Urnum? It's going to tap 2 as well. And what are we going to see here for 2 more? Does he have a copy artifact? No, he's got a Time Walk. Okay, so he's not going to make a decision yet. First going to take an extra turn. Try to get some more information. What's on top of his deck? Ideally for him here would be, of course, Swords to Plowshares and that Chaos Orb flip. It's going to tap 2. There we see a Demonic Tutor. Uh-oh. Yeah, this is where the game kind of gets out of the hands of Timmy. We see a lot of restricted cards, a lot of power cards being played out by Martijn. And yeah, that's the moment where Tim is like, oh, I'm really not happy with this. Because remember, this is already the extra turn of Martijn, so Martijn's really running away here with the mana, with the card advantage. Probably going to look up an Ancestral Recall to draw some more cards. Another option can be, of course, to just go for the swords, but that's basically a 1-for-1, and Ancestral Recall is going to give you that card advantage. Now remember, Mind Twist being banned here, except because if not, then a Mind Twist was perhaps a good option for Martijn as well, although the hand of Tim is pretty much gone, only has 2 cards left. So we do see Martijn thinking about it here for a moment. I mean, one of the things he could do as well, but I think you don't really want to do that, but you could flip on your own Suchi, kill your Suchi, then play a balance, for example, wipe the board. But I think in this case, I would go for Ancestral Recall personally. But let's see what Martijn has picked. He's now shuffling at the moment. But game 1 is looking very good for Martijn, to be honest. Gonna tap 2. What are we gonna see? Oh, we are gonna see a balance. Okay, so he is gonna do a balance. Balancing things out. 2 cards there for Martijn in hand. I believe also 2 cards for Tim. So he's basically destroying 3 creatures here with the balance, which is quite good. Probably wants to keep the Urnum, but you know he's probably going to flip on it. Could also pick the keep the Pixies, of course. I assume he's going to go for the Urnum here. The thing is, the sad thing is it doesn't really matter because he's got that Chaos Orb left. Also has to put a land away there, Martijn. But still a good transaction for him. Could now, of course, flip. Oh, he's going to pass, though. I thought he would flip on the Urnum and then attack for 4. But it looks like he wants to get that Forest Walk. So Suchi, of course, getting Forest Walk from the Urnum Djinn. Yeah, this is really tough for Tim. I think for Tim, if you're in this spot, of course, you're not going to concede. But it's so difficult for him here. Look at that, Martijn just taking the damage again. Going to go to 14. And it's interesting here, for me at least, to see Martijn not flipping on the Urnum. And perhaps he's thinking, you know, I've got bigger fish to fry with the Chaos Orb. It's going to tap 2. There's a Felwer Stone. It's going to attack for 4. Going to put Timmy on 16. 1 card left for Martijn in hand. There's the pass. Untap, upkeep, draw. It's going to tap 3. And there's an Ice Storm, which is actually quite good because he can exactly Ice Storm the factory. He's going to use the mana here, it seems, to use the Chaos Orb now on the Urnum, I guess. It's going to flip on the Urnum. And, ooh, sloppy flip, but it's a hit. Or not, didn't rotate fully. Oh, wow, it has to rotate fully. Didn't rotate fully, meaning the Urnum is still on the battlefield. Attack for 6. And now we've got a different game on our hands. This missed flip really changed it. The missed flip in combination also with the Ice Storm making it possible for Tim to swing in for 6. 8 measly life lefty for Tim. Tim getting taken for, gonna drop to 12. We've got a game all of a sudden. I was pretty sure it was locked in tight by Martijn, but Martijn making that missed flip really changed things, passing the turn here. Are we gonna see another hit for 6 here by Tim? That would put Martijn on 2 measly life. Gonna animate and attack. I assume we're gonna see a disenchant on the factory, or else he would have kept the Suchi on blocking duty. Exactly. There we see the disenchant, but he's still taking damage. There's a Scavenger Folk. Ooh, counterspell on the Scavenger. But still, of course, 4 damage here for Martijn. So he should drop here to 8, I believe. To 4, I believe. And there we see the other Suchi hitting the board. So remember, Martijn is actually on 4 here. But now the double Suchi is going to be difficult for Tim. But still, he's back into it. There's the pass. Going to find just a single card and a pass turn. There's the pass back to Martijn as well. Martijn finding an Ancestral Recall. Yeah, that is painful. Yeah, this Ancestral can get Martijn the juice he needs to win the game. So he's gone up to 4 cards in hand now. Swords to Plowshares would kind of do it here. There's the swords. So that means Tim is going to go back up to 16. Going to take a hit of 8. Going to drop to 8 in total. So 8 life here for Tim. Yeah, that's unfortunate. I think that Ancestral kind of ruined it here for Tim. Tim did a really good job getting back into that game with that Ice Storm turn. And of course that missed flip by Martijn. But yeah, he's pretty close to defeat here in game number 1. Remember, it's just game number 1 though. Already past the turn here. There's an Armageddon. Sealing the deal. And then of course attacking for 8. And we see Martijn is not even untapping the Suchis here. Players are doing this verbally. Also, probably both players knew that Martijn was on 4. He just didn't change the dice. Maybe he's keeping a score on paper as well. Of course, it's always nice if the players use the dice. But just to clarify, he was on 4. But he wins the game here. And that was more exciting than I thought. There was really this moment in the game where I was like, okay, it's locked. Martijn's easily going to win this. Then there was that spectacular turn. I like it. I love it. And the good news is this is just game number 1. So both players are going to dive into their sideboards, and we will catch back up with them in game number 2. Game number 2, here we go. So it's 1 game up for Martijn, meaning we've got Tim on the play. He's playing a mono green, and that's a big difference, right? If you're on the play or on the draw when you're playing mono green. There's a Llanowar Elves passing the turn here to Martijn. Let's see what Martijn can do in his first turn. There's a Tundra, there's a Mox. There's a Swords, quick Swords here, taking care of the Llanowar. Does mean an extra life for Tim, going up to 21. There we see another Forest. Are we going to see a Whirling Dervish, for example? The 1/1 creature from Legends. Can of course also play out an Argovian Pixies. or some 1-drops. Tapping a single forest here. There we see another Llanowar Elves. Passing the turn though, not another 1-drop. So kind of a slow start for Tim, which may seem odd because he's playing a creature every single turn. But for mono green, this is a slow start. There's a factory for Martijn and he passes the turn as well. So Martijn really more in that passive role, of course, in this matchup. Tim has to win it here to stay in the tournament. Is, of course, the defending champion. Won the tournament here last year. Has that Llanowar Elves there. What is Tim going to do? He's going to attack with the Lonely Llanowar, kind of signaling that he has perhaps a crumble in hand. And of course, Martijn not falling for it, taking the damage, dropping to 19. There's an Argovian Pixies. So the 2/1 creature that cannot be blocked by artifacts. And all the damage dealt to it by artifacts is reduced to 0. It's quite an odd card in that sense that it doesn't just have protection from artifacts, but something else. There we see the Suchi. 4/4 powerhouse. There's a quick crumble though. Does mean 4 life here for Martijn. It's going up to 23. Probably going to take a hit of 3 here. Exactly, can use the Pendelhaven here as well. He's not going to use it though. Going to have a 4-drop. There's a Suchi. And I think that's the interesting thing about Tim's build. His build is a bit more bulky, right? 4 Suchi, 4 Urnums. A lot of mono green builds would rather go for Spitting Slug. And here we see a Divine Offering. Yeah, this is a really good card coming in from the sideboard. Playing 1 main, 1 in the side, by the way. So maybe this is the 1 main copy. Also playing a Maze. It's going to animate here. Attack for 3, actually. And look at that. Tim is on 18. Martijn on 24. Yeah, it's not looking great for Tim again. Martijn is just going too quickly as well with the Moxen and all the answers that Martijn has. Of course, we see a Swords Play down a Divine Offering already. Just taking the minimal amount of damage. Going to drop to 22. Just a pass by Tim. Ah, that is rough. That is really rough for Tim. There we see a Suchi being played out. Yeah, now we're probably going to see Martijn kind of slowly taking over this game. What Tim really needs here is an Ice Storm for the Maze, and at least he can continue attacking here. He is going to attack with the Pixies and also with the Llanowar Elves, signaling to have a Giant Growth here. Going to send back the Pixies. Going to take the 1 damage. No pump here by Tim. Tim going to tap 4. Okay, there's an Urnum Djinn. I love how good this Urnum is in blocking those Suchis. That 4/5 to 5 toughness really helps. As we can see, by the way, this is an Urnum with some street experience. I remember back in the day when we used to just play on the floor with unsleeved cards. Those were the days. Here we see another Suchi. And during my breaks in high school, I've played a lot of like 4th edition stuff on the floors. That was fun, also outside. But anyway, we're now inside. Both players having fancy playmats and sleeves. And Tim forgetting to, I believe, untap that Llanowar Elves. And he's just going to swing in here with the Argovian Pixies and with the Urnum. Looks like Martijn is just going to take 2 here or not. Changing his mind, it seems. He is going to send back the Argovian Pixies. He's going to go for a double block. And that means one of the Urnums dies, one of the Suchis dies. And I kind of agree with Tim here. He just has to play very aggressive with his deck. Yes, it's not ideal trading an Urnum for a single Suchi, but his deck wants to attack. His deck has to attack. If he's going to drag this game into late game, he's definitely going to lose, and he knows that. He's a very experienced mono green player. He knows exactly what he needs to do with his deck. There's a Sage of Latnam hitting the board. And I think the Sage can do some work. Also because Tim, of course, is playing mono green. Doesn't really have a quick answer to the Sage. Wanted to attack here with the Pixies, changing his mind. I mean, Tim really needs to find a way to break through Martijn's defenses here. But it's going to be rough. That Maze is already doing so much work here for Martijn. And Tim, of course, is playing with 4 Ice Storms, but hasn't found a single one yet in this second game. The pressure's really on Timmy. He has to win this game to stay in at quarterfinals of the Camel Trophy, the 7th edition here in Arnhem. I won't say Haarlem, but we're in Arnhem, the Netherlands. Yeah, Tim really taking his time, understanding the importance probably of this turn. Martijn on 21, which is way too high if you're the mono green player. And Tim even lower. He's lower than Martijn, which is not good. He's on 18. Pretty high, of course, but still. At this stage in the game with a mono green deck, you want to have your opponent like at least on 10. And we can see the shadow there of Tim's hand kind of shuffling the cards up and down, flicking the cards, I should say, in his hand. Trying to find the correct line of play, the best line of play, a line of play that can maybe give him some perspective here. Because at the moment, I have to be honest, Tim, I don't see any perspective for you at this point. Passing the turn, yeah, that is painful. That is painful when you're behind with this deck and then you're passing the turn. But if it's the best thing to do, it's what you have to do. Of course, 3 cards being tapped here by Martijn. Let's see what he can do. There we see a Psionic Blast taking out the Argovian Pixies. Are we going to see... I mean, a Giant Grove is not going to save it. Exactly, I would just let it die. What else can you do? At least 2 damage for Martijn. Martijn dropping here to 19. And there's the swing by the Suchi. Oh, changing his mind though. And I guess he changed his mind because of the Pendelhaven. He can make it a 2-3. Then he can also block on the Factory. Can make it a 3-3. Then he can double block. I mean, on the other hand, though, Martijn could also kind of fake a disenchant. I don't really know why you want to do that, but I guess that's why he changed his mind. Because, of course, if you have a disenchant in hand, it's quite a good attack. Or if you want to fake having a disenchant in hand. Anyway, let's see what else Martijn's going to do. There's a Demonic Tutor. Yeah, we saw this in game 1 again. We see this Martijn kind of taking over those restricted cards, those power cards. If you give these players time, they will really power you out, and there's very little you can do. And what I personally love about these, you know, the monocolored decks, we've seen a few of them really winning against those highly powered decks. It's not that odd because they're really good at being consistent. They're really aggressive and quick in those early days of the game. That's where they want to win. And that's, of course, a problem in Tim thus far in this matchup, that those early turns haven't really been that favorable for him. And that's really when his deck wants to shine and do its thing. You want to have your opponent so low that you just need a few finishing cards to win the game. And yeah, that's not the case here for Tim. We really see Martijn again walking away with this game, just like he did in game number 1. Of course, in game number 1, we saw that moment where the table seemed to turn. So I'm kind of hoping for that. Not that I have anything against you, Martijn, but you know, the mono green deck to me is really the underdog. So I'm hoping that it can find the victory here. And of course, I always want to see a game 3. Always. And this is, of course, just game number 2. There's the pass, though, by Martijn after looking up his card with the Demonic. So let's see what Tim can do. Go, Tim. You can do it. Maybe start with an Urnham or start with an Ice Storm. I'm just trying to think, is there anything in his deck that can get rid of the Sage? I don't think so. I guess the Sage he just has to ignore. Passing turn, though. Ay, 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 ay. I wonder what's in Tim's hand. I mean, how many cards does he have anyway? Is it 2 cards or 3 cards? Anyway, none of them very good, I guess. There's the Ancestral Recall. Probably looked that up with the Demonic Tutor. So more cards for Martijn. So Martijn now has more life, more creatures, and more cards. It's looking very bleak for Tim. But hey, he's still around. Could happen. There we see a Soul Ring. The famous artifact for 1 that you can tap for 2 mana. There's the attack, the 4-4. He is going to attack now, kind of signaling that he now has finally found a disenchant probably, or Swords to Plowshares. Yeah, what can you do when you're Tim? Maybe just take a hit of 4. Or not. There's a Crumble. Okay, has a Crumble in hand. So going to crumble the Suchi. 4 life again, though, for Martijn. Martijn going to go up to 23. Passing the turn here back to Tim. And if Tim has at least, you know, the Ice Storm for the maze, he can at least try to deal some damage here. But I guess if he had the Ice Storm, he would have played it a long time ago. But yeah, maybe he found it from the top of the deck. Flicking through the cards again, trying to find a way out. It's usually a good sign when you're playing against a player who's going like, oh man, gee, flicking the cards, looking at the cards again, looking at the board state, putting the hand down, getting the cards back up in his hand, sighing, moaning. Usually that's a good sign. Although there are a few players that I've played against that, you know, can complain when they are winning. Have you ever had that when you're playing against an opponent when they're complaining when they are winning against you? That feels really bad. You're like, I should be the one complaining. Anyway, Martijn here playing a Swords on the Llanowar Elves. It's kind of insult over injury here. Yeah, of course Tim is going to go up, but this seems to be a losing battle. Is he going to animate the factories here and just attack? Or I think he's going to play a Brain Geyser. Yeah, that's the thing with these decks. They get so many win more cards. No, it's a Trike. Okay. I'm actually happy to see a Trike because that means that, you know, Martijn can start attacking next turn. Can try to kind of close the game. There we see an Argovian Pixies. Hitting the board. So the Pixies, of course, are protected from the damage counters on Triskelion, so that's kind of nice. And of course it can block the Trike as well. But there we see a quick Sword Supply. She has so many cards for Martijn. Has all the answers now. That's the second Swords, I believe, of the game. Or is it the third one already? The third Swords of the game. And Tim going to go up to 22. There's a hit of 4, it seems. Ooh, he is going to animate. Does he have a Giant Growth? He's going to block before damage is dealt. I guess he's going to pump it to a 3-3 or not. I mean, if he has a growth, he doesn't have to pump it yet. Pumps it to a 3-3. And then what are we going to see? Now we're going to see the growth. And then the question is, are we going to see a Disenchant or a Swords? There's the growth. And actually, in response, Martijn could now take up the 3 counters off the Triskelion, kill the factory. There we see a counter spell though on the Giant Growth. Yeah, that is unfortunate. Does have another green. Does he have another Giant Growth in hand? It's gonna tap and what does he want to do? Another Giant Growth. Yeah, then he's gonna win. But then still, exactly, he can take the counters off. Like that's the thing with Trike. It's so good. Those counters, they're so flexible. So even with a double Giant Growth, Tim doesn't manage to kill the Triskelion here. Yes, the counters of the Trike are gone, so that's a small victory, but it's just so bad overall for Tim. And Tim knows that, of course. But I mean, he's in the quarterfinals. There we see that Brain Geyser I expected to see earlier. Insult over injury yet again here by Martijn. So many cards in hand, so much advantage. Gonna swing in for 1. And yeah, probably starting next turn, the game is gonna go quicker here. We see a Mox and a land. No copy artifact, that would have been nice, of course, here for Martijn. Tim gonna tap 2 green. There we see a Whirling Dervish. So again, Dervish, a great card early in the game, but at this stage, pretty powerless against all the weapons of Martijn. And the question now is, how aggressive is Martijn going to play it? He can also play it super safe. You know, that's always a question with how many, creatures are you going to attack, etc., etc. You, of course, have to think about that Pendelhaven on the side of Tim. That makes it a little bit tricky. You could, for example, just choose to animate 1 factory, attack with a factory. If he blocks and pump, you can pump your factory. That's a 3-3 against a 2-3. You know, that's a line you can take, but maybe he's got a Suchi in hand, tapping 4 here. Oh, Control Magic. Oh, man. Insult over injury yet again, animating here. He can now swing in for 5. Of course, wants to keep the Sage untapped in case he wants to sack an artifact for some more cards. Tim dropping to 16. And I mean, this is just horrible for Tim. Next turn, Martijn can start attacking with the Whirling Dervish, get counters on his Stolen Dervish. That's just nasty. Okay, there's a Tranquility. There you go. I do love this, though. It's good to see a nice, old-fashioned Tranquility. The entire deck of Tim, by the way, is black bordered. Beautiful, beautiful deck. Labor of love. But, yeah, here we see a Scavenger Folk. I mean, Scavenger Folk can take down an artifact. And there we see a Sage being activated by Martijn. Second, the Mox Pearl. And I mean, I do find it interesting, or yeah, just see like how much Tim can still do back. You know, this is kind of the mono green aggro deck being defensive, which is not where you want to be. But it's interesting to see the mono green deck operate from that position. I mean, the Tranquility was kind of nice, but in the end, at the end of the day, it's just a 1-for-1 though. Would have been nicer if there would have been like multiple, you know, control magics on the board. Anyway, there we see a Forest. And I believe Tranquility can also take out copy artifacts, by the way, because the copy artifact remains an enchantment as well. So that's a nice little fact. Making Tranquility slightly better than it used to be, because you see so many copies these days. Yeah, Tim again in the tank. I mean, maybe. I mean, it's good that he still believes. That's good. You're in the quarterfinals for a reason. He's on 16 still. The thing though is there's no card draw in green. I mean, he does play a Sylvan in the sideboard. Maybe he boarded that in. I personally like the mono green version with Sylvan. But the problem is, and I do get Tim's point as well, Tim's really going for a creature-heavy mono-green deck, which pays off, right? Because he won last year, and now he's into the top 8, which is quite an accomplishment. You know, but I love to have Sylvan in there, Hurricane in there, but then you take out creatures, and I guess what the mono-green deck wants to do is just play multiple creatures every single turn them sideways, you know, just put optimal pressure on your opponent. And I'm tempted to go a little bit more for control. This is interesting, the attack here with the Dervish, but just a mace. So not even an attempt to block it with a Factory. And why should he? No reason to do that. There's the animate of both Factories. Gonna swing in with both. So I assume we're gonna see a Dervish block with the Pendelhaven and maybe a Scavenger Folk activation after that. Let's first see what happens in combat, right? So I would first declare blocks, then use Pendelhaven. So declares the blocker. Is he also going to block with the Scavenger? That's the question. I mean, he can. You're going to sack it anyway. Why not? I mean, that saves you 2 points of damage. So I guess that's the way to go, right? Yeah, so he's going to block both. Gonna make this into a 2/3. Ooh, changing his mind though. I mean, I think before damage is dealt, you have to make all these decisions. That's maybe the reason why I wouldn't have blocked with the Scavenger. It gives you some more time to wait and see. It does mean you take 2 extra damage, but because now you make it a 2/3, if you do nothing, your Scavenger is just gonna die, right? There we see a Psionic Blast. But blocker's already declared, so no damage. And of course 2 damage for Martijn. And then I guess he's going to use the Scavenger in response. I mean, you have to, or else it's just going to die for nothing, right? So you're going to use the Scavenger here in response, blow up one of the factories. Doesn't really change much. Or does he have a Giant Grove? If he has a Giant Grove... Oh, he's got a Giant Grove! That changes the whole math and the whole scenario. And there we see Martijn gobbling up his own factory. Yeah, this is why Sage is so good. Now you still get a card out of it. A land found tapping 2. There's a copy artifact. And he's going to copy the Triskelion. And in response, of course, he's going to kill the Trike. Then he has to choose another target for the copy. Could, of course, choose a factory then. So I guess it's now a factory that he's copied. A nice signed copy artifact, by the way. Recognize the, I believe it's Amy Weber, right? The Amy Weber autograph there. If it's an artist proof, Martijn, please flip the card so we can see. That would be quite cool. It's going to animate both factories now, including the copied one. Attack for 4, Tim dropping to 12. There we see another mace. Wow. Not really necessary, but I can understand that he boarded in the extra mazes. It's going to attack again for 4, so 2 more turns to go for Tim, it seems. It's going to drop to 8. And there we see another copy. Yeah, the copy train is going. There's a Suchi. Okay. But I mean, because he's got the mazes, he can still keep attacking. Just the one that he blocks uses the maze to take that out of combat. Pump the other one, still deal 5 points of damage. So no real reason for him to be concerned. Animating, attacking. And are we now going to see a block? He's going to see a block. He could use it to pump. He's not doing it though, I think. Just dealing 4 then. It's going to drop to 4. There's a time walk. Yeah, that's it. That's game 1 here by Martijn. So that means he's going to the semi-finals. Congratulations to Martijn. Congratulations again, Martijn. You've made it to the semi-finals, and in the next episode, we're going to see you in action in that semi-finals. Here on the left, we see Martijn's deck, the Robots deck, and you're going to take on Koen, and Koen's playing a blue-red burn, right, with those orcish mechanics. So I've called it UR Mechanics. We've seen it in action already here at the tournament. Very strong deck. So 2 again, super strong decks going face-to-face in the semi-finals. We kind of have control versus burn, right? That's the game that these players are playing. Both have heavily artifact-centered decks, by the way. So these 2 decks are coming to the channel next time. If you want to make sure you don't miss it, hit that subscribe button and ring that bell, because then you will be notified whenever I put any new content on. You make sure that you don't miss a thing. And before you go, please take a moment to like, share, and comment on this video. All these things are free and really help the channel moving forward. Talking about moving forward, you can also become a patron of the show. Check out patreon.com/TimmyTalks to find out how you can support the show financially as well. And I just want to say a big thank you to all the patrons. Without the patrons, this channel wouldn't be here anymore. At least it would be here, but not as active as it is today. So thank you very much, patrons. It's thanks to you that I was able to get new equipment. It's thanks to you that I'm able to travel to tournaments all over Europe and show you matches. And maybe I'm even going to go overseas. Maybe I'm going to visit the States in the future, because a lot of my patrons are from America. So who knows? I mean, that's all in the future. That's all in the glass bowl. We'll just have to wait and see what's going to happen. But for now, thank you very much if you're already a patron. If not, please consider becoming one. Check out patreon.com/TimmyTalks.
What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? Early in the morning, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises. Early in the morning, put him in the longboat until he's sober, put him in the longboat until he's sober, put him in the longboat until he's sober. Early in the morning, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises. She rises early in the morning. Pull out the plug and wet him all over. Pull out the plug and wet him all over. Pull out the plug and wet him all over. Early in the morning. Way up she rises. Way up she rises. Way up she rises early in the morning. What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? Put him in the scouts to the hood, my son. Put him in the scouts to the hood, my son. Put him in the scouts to the hood, my son.
Ficus, sumba,